Welcome to the New Music Alliance Radio Hour. We focus on great original music, both present and past, from the Western New England area. And that's music from New Haven, Connecticut and thereabouts, all the way through Western Massachusetts and Southern Vermont. And I'm Mark Ramone, here today with Mark Sherry.
Hey there.
The song intro to our show was African Eyes by the late great sax player and Grammy Award winner Charles Neville and his son Khalif Neville, Huntington, Massachusetts residents. So, Mark, we've got a special spotlight show, our 14th.
This is going to be a fun show. Today we have a special guest for our spotlight, because our spotlight is on Sleeper Cave Records out of Haydenville, Massachusetts. And we have Andy Cass, who is the owner and chief engineer, here with us today. Andy, how you doing?
Good. How you guys doing? Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Our pleasure. And I think it's going to be all our listeners' pleasure too. So Sleeper Cave has been operating for quite a few years now. And if you could you think you'd tell us a little bit about the studio and maybe a little bit about your philosophy in recording?
Yeah, so I've been running this studio full-time for about 5 years now out of my current space in Haydenville. I've actually been running a studio of some form for another for the past 11 or so years since I got out of college. I really try to focus on building my studio as like a musician-first studio. So I've spent the last 10 years gathering like mostly instruments and other fun things for musicians to play with and make records with, because that's the best part, is having all the great instruments to play with and some recording gear along the way.
Excellent. So what do you think sort of sets your studio apart?
I really, really have a heavy emphasis on the musical side of things, which may sound like an obvious thing for a recording studio to have, but isn't always the case. I really wanted to build a studio that has a ton of great instruments to play with and an engineer who knows what they're doing, both with instruments and with music production. I went to college for recording, so I have like a really good technical background in making records.
And you're also a bass player, and I know that you lend your expertise when necessary to all of the clients you have in there.
Yeah, I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I consider myself mostly a guitarist, but I do find myself playing bass on most records that I work on.
Yeah, and obviously you always need bass players.
Yeah, they're the foundation.
What do you think? Like, the last thing I would want to ask is, what do you think sort of like a typical session is like at your studio?
Well, I would hope fun. I try to be really collaborative with my artists and listen to them and not just like force the direction of the music that we're creating. I just like make it a collaborative experience. And that's really what's most important to me, because I get a lot of artists who have gone to other studios and haven't had a great time because they felt like the engineer or the producer there has kind of run over them and not really listened to them in what they're trying to hear and get out and say with their music. So I try really hard to like collaborate and work with my artists and keep things fun and light while we're recording.
Well, that's really important. All right, well, let's hear some of the music that you've recorded. And I guess we're going to start off with a band called Dharma Bird with Louisiana.